Hi, I am Noah. You are watching another episode of I Am Father from a C's perspective. He was my dad. My dad is actually a good man. He's a really good man. He's a really great father. He just he couldn't control himself.
I am father.
Back against the wall, head still high, push through it all. Father am I, lead by example, but still I gotta follow. Value your seeds, let's promise them tomorrow. Forever I stand, it's never to be a bother. Forever I'm man, forever I'm father. Forever I stand, it's never to be a bother. Forever I'm man, forever I'm father.
My name is Allen Ervin, and this is I Am Father. Hey, this is Allen Ervin. You're watching another episode of I Am Father, a brand new segment from a C's perspective. We get an opportunity to listen from the fathers and the father's journey, but it's three journeys in this. You got the father's journey, you got the mother's journey, and you got the C's journey. And this is from a C's perspective. I have an opportunity to speak with Noah. Glad you came out, my brother.
Thank you.
How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Yeah. So I know just a little bit about you, and I want to introduce you to the audience because I got a lot of respect for you. And tell the audience a little bit about you, where you're from, and of course you don't have kids at this moment. And some of the goals and the dreams that's within you, and we're gonna jump into the fatherhood. We're here to talk about fatherhood from your perspective.
I'm an artist, Renaissance artist. I multifaceted. I'm from Kansas. I'm from Topeka, Kansas. Shout out to the 785. A little bit about me. I'm just a big kid, ultimately, and I feel like that that's what keeps me fresh. Being curious as a child. Being able to turn, "Mommy, what's this?" in a library, and "Where's this book located?" And stuff like that. Just keeping that my inner child really has saved me a great deal, but it's made me more of a man, shockingly.
So you say, "Mommy," what was your dad around?
um that's complicated. Like, okay, so my father um I was raised by my mom.
Okay.
I visited my father from time to time. It was it was an interesting relationship, to say the least. We had a constant friction between us. It was all right though. He's a good man today.
So you're from Kansas,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Was your dad from Kansas?
My father's from Chicago. My whole family's from Chicago.
Oh, okay. You just grew up in Kansas.
I'm the only one that grew up in Kansas. Yes.
And Topeka, Kansas. So
In
that's
Topeka,
like
Kansas.
that's like the heart of Kansas.
It's the capital. It is the
Okay.
capital.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So do you have any sisters and brothers?
I do. I have an older. I'm the baby. I have an older sister and an older brother.
Okay, so it's three of you.
Yes.
And you're the only one that was in Topeka. Your other two siblings was in Chicago. Was everybody in Topeka?
They all moved to Topeka with my mom. My mom moved to Topeka.
Okay. So mostly raised by your mom.
Yes.
And you saw your dad intermittently, or
I saw my father. My mom made sure that my mom wasn't one of those moms that was like, she didn't really say much bad about my father. She said, "I'm gonna let you get your own experience."
that's good.
Yeah, it was definitely a blessing for her to do that to me, because I definitely got my own experience, and she didn't have to say anything. I experienced that. You know what I mean? And
So what is it that you experience? I mean, how do you feel about your father?
Today, I love my father. I appreciate my father. You know, I give my father a lot of credit. Back then, I didn't at all. You know, it was we had a shaky relationship. It was abuse. You know, neglect. You know, abandonment issues. You know, I just felt like that. You know, so
Well, you're 22 years old. At what age did you really start to get to know your father?
when I moved to Chicago when I was 15. I really, really, really got to understand him, and it was like, wow, I'm seeing things differently.
Yeah.
You know, he's me being able to say this now is different from me in the moment. Me, I'm able to reflect on it and say, well, he wasn't in tune with his spirit back then.
Okay.
He wasn't talking to God like he is now. Like,
Okay.
you know what I'm saying? Like, my father grew substantially. Like, he's a different man now. He's a father. He's a father in flesh and spirit, and that's one of the things I appreciate about him the most is his ability to adapt and grow. You know, for sure, for sure.
Sometimes it takes others longer, you know,
Yeah.
to get on the right track. You know, especially. Do you know anything about his father? Was his father in his life?
He was. He was raised by his mother and father.
All right. Okay, and they were both married for
Yes.
a very long time.
Yes, my
That's a
grandpa
little
and
different.
grandma. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little different. It must have been something that detoured him while he was coming up. Was he in the
The
military?
world. It was definitely the world.
Okay.
You know, the world. I mean, I feel like my father wasn't an ugly man. You know what I mean? And you know, just women of the world got him distracted. A lot of things got my father distracted. He had big dreams, and I feel like when he had kids, it was like, dang, like my
His
dreams.
life changed.
Yeah, like my dreams. You don't have to put it on the back burner, but he just kind of felt that way. You know what I mean? And I don't.
You
I
said
don't.
he felt like he had to choose. Are you saying he felt like he had to choose between his his kids and his career?
I wouldn't say he had to choose. It was just, yeah, he had to choose. He had to choose. He definitely had to choose between his kids and his career.
Uh huh.
And he really didn't choose neither. He really didn't choose neither. And when everything's all said and done, you know what I mean? But at the end, he got his kids back.
Okay.
You know, now he has his kids back.
And when you say the end, how long that was? It was he in his 50s when he decided? How old were you when you believe he decided I need to go get my kids? Because you moved to Chicago at 15.
Hmm.
So up until 15, you was raised by your mom in Topeka,
Yeah.
right? So when you moved to Chicago, did he make that decision then? How old were you when?
My father did not make that decision. Then, Dad, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. But he didn't make that decision then.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like when my little brother was born with cerebral palsy, that kind of like it snapped him, and he really, like, my dad did a whole 360, but it was always there. He just didn't tap into it. Like, I've always
Now,
seen
was your brother
spurts.
the oldest, or was your sister the oldest?
My sister's the oldest,
And
and,
then
my
your
brother,
brother.
and then it's me. But I'm talking about my younger brothers. When I say my brother, my sister, I'm talking about my mom's side of the family. My dad
Okay.
was definitely a Rolling Stone, you know. He's definitely a Rolling Stone.
It happens.
Yeah. So my little brother Carter, who is the last child, was born with cerebral palsy. It kind of snapped him into reality. He was like, "Whoa, this kid needs more of me than all of my kids." You know what I mean?
How old were you at that point?
Okay, my math's gonna be off. I think I was like 16 when Carter was born.
Yeah, that's when you had moved back to Chicago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah, yeah. And at that point, he realized that he need to really reinsert himself
Oh yeah.
into his kid's
That
life.
that kind of like hit him. But one thing I will do is I will say my father always kind of did pursue having a relationship with his kids. He always did.
Okay.
It's just he didn't know how to have a relationship with his kids. You see what I'm saying? Like he knew, but he just didn't do what he knew. You know what I'm saying? Like my grandma raised my father. My grandma raised my father, so I know my father knew everything he needed to know. You know what I mean? Because my grandma don't play. You know what I mean? It's just his own anger, his own, you know, not being able to be patient, you know, with a kid and wanting to put his hands on him and all that other stuff. It's kind of relationship. My dad was a fighter, always has been. You know, sometimes you know he's a little high headed. You know what I mean? Great man. He's a great man. Then he just didn't know how to control himself like he do now.
That's interesting because you said that your father, mom and dad, was always in his life. It's like they stayed together, but he was raised by your grandmother,
Oh,
or
yeah.
is it his grandmother?
Oh yeah, like my granddaddy definitely got my father. He got in him. Like he would,
Okay.
you know. But how I see my grandma is like she's like the backbone.
Or the whole family.
My grandma Josie don't play. Like my grandma Josie can.
Is she still alive now?
She is alive, so she
Wow,
gonna see
how
this.
old is she? How old
She
is
is.
she?
Ooh, I don't know how old she is. Probably like 70 something.
70 something. This is your dad's mom.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. My father's mom, she does not play. My grandma Josie is a military sergeant, all kinds of stuff. She was in Afghanistan at an older age too. She don't play.
Well, it seemed like they all came up pretty young. Your grandmother is 70 something.
Yeah.
From your
And my dad is just turned 50.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, listen, man, that's still young. That's still young. And sometime, man, listen, fatherhood, my experience, and it actually come from, my experience and talking to a lot of fathers on this show is it takes some people a little longer than others to really grasp fatherhood. Now, if they can grasp it at conception, then they golden. A lot of people don't grasp it at conception. It take them a minute, but I just say grasp it.
You know what I learned?
Okay.
You know, when you are a father, you have to be a father mentally, spiritually, physically, and in the heart. Mm-hmm. And my father was a father physically, you know, and mentally he was getting there. He was attempting to get there, but he wasn't. It wasn't sitting. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like the Bible says, you know, seed is on unfertile soil and all that stuff. It was definitely one of those moments. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? For some reason, that seed, it wasn't growing. With my father, you know, he really started to tap into his true self when my little brother was, you know,
That hit him hard.
yeah.
And he
But
was born
I
with
will
cerebral
say,
palsy.
in my father's defense, there were several times where he tried to see his kids and it was blocked. He has several
Wow.
different baby mamas and stuff like that. Spite.
From the mom.
So imagine what that'll do to a man. You know what I mean? Imagine what that'll do to a man that's already hot headed, and he wants to see his kids. My dad is actually a good man. He's a really good man. He's a really great father. He couldn't control himself.
What do you do for a living?
Very, very good man. He worked at Morgan Stanley. You know,
Okay.
he's very smart. Went to college for political science, all that stuff.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, seem pretty sharp. So what is it that you think your father taught you indirectly? You know, him not
Ooh.
being there.
That's a good question. That's a good question. What my father taught me indirectly is to definitely put God first. because that's where he fell short. You know, he definitely fell short not putting God first, for sure. And when I say God, I don't mean religion. I mean God.
Yeah. Well, you say he was there like physically, but you also got to be there spiritually. You got to really be.
He was overly
in
there
touch.
physically.
Huh?
He was overly there physically. Overly there physically.
So when you say he was abusive, are you saying physically abusive?
Yeah, and I do know the difference between a whooping and abuse. You know, and there's times I did get whoopings, and it was not abuse, but there was some times where I had to, you know, get put in the arm bar and some more stuff. You know what I mean? So it was definitely one of those situations. But yeah, if my father would have put God first in the relationship, he would have learned what I learned in, you know, fatherhood. Even though I'm not a father right now, but there was a time where I could have been, and what I would have done was, you have to submit to your child. You definitely have to submit to your child. Like, I submit to you, you submit to me. We ultimately submit to something greater than both of us, and that is God. Once again, not religion, but God. And that does not mean I submit to what my child says. I submit to the consideration of what my child needs. Like, what I'm considering my child. What does he need at this very moment? I'm submitting to that. You know what I mean? But I still give my child a voice. You know what I mean? And that's one of the things that I feel like it really propelled me to be an artist today, because I felt like I didn't have a voice growing up. You know what I mean? My mom gave me a voice, you know, but sometimes even then, you know, I didn't have a voice. You know what I mean? And, you know, because it's like stay in a child's place, but, you know, you can learn a lot from a child.
Oh, absolutely.
You really can.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Let's go back for a minute. You say you was almost a father.
Yeah.
Right? You almost been a father at what age?
This is last year, so 21.
Oh, 21. Okay. Did that give you a new perspective or outlook on fatherhood?
You know, yes.
Okay.
Yes,
In what way?
Because it was like, it's all a figment of imagination until it's here, until somebody says, I am pregnant. And then it's like, whoa, your whole mind changes. And my whole mind changed, ended up losing the child. So it was just like, but my mind stays the same. You know, I genuinely feel that I am a father. You know, I'm just a father to a spirit now. You know what I'm saying? That's yeah. Yeah.
So you do you feel like you was ready to be that father? I mean, I believe mentally, you, from what the little that I know, right, about you, I believe mentally you would have been ready, because I believe you would have done everything that your father didn't do when you were in Topeka, Kansas, from 0 to 15. I mean, you'd have been there for your kid in that way. But do you think you were ready financially?
Oh no.
Do you think you were ready? You know, because for me, right, and I had something. I think I had something similar. I was what, 16 or something like that, and yeah, it was 16, and you know, my girlfriend got pregnant, and I was in love with my girlfriend, and I was willing to just take on. You know, I think I was ready spiritually, but I wasn't there financially. And, you know, my dad wasn't there the way that I'm here now. But, you know, it didn't happen because, you know, I eventually had a DNA test, and the test came back, you know, baby wasn't mine, negative.
Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that.
But what that did was really, really, because I'd have took it on. You know, I was ready to really take it on. I just wasn't ready financially and where I need to be as far as what I know about fatherhood right now to be able to bring that kid up. But but what it did was it really put me on another path, right?
Yeah.
It was like, listen, okay, when I was in college, I wore 2 condoms, right? And I said, listen, I'm not having any kids. I'm not getting married until I graduate. I can take care of them, and I'm good to go. So I was like 32.
You lost me at 2 condoms.
Oh, I was wearing 2 condoms, though. Now, what I know now, I know that don't work. I know that don't work. They really, deteriorate. One of the condoms going to deteriorate. I get that. But, yeah, so I was ready mentally,
Yeah.
but I really wasn't ready where I need to be. What is you think where do you need to be to be that father?
Where I would like to be, because God has definitely equipped me with the tools to do anything in the spur of any moment. You know what I mean? But like if that child would have came out, I'd have been the best dad in the world. I just wouldn't have had the finances to give that child everything that I didn't have. You know what I mean? And that'd be something that bothered me. Sometimes you walk in the store, Dad, can I have this? I want to get it for you. I really do, but I can't at this particular moment because I'm building for us. And it's a blessing in disguise, so to say, that now I have more time to get myself to the point I need to be before I have a child. But
is that a recommendation you would give?
Yeah, for sure. Be financially ready for a child before you have a child, most definitely.
That way you don't have to go through the struggles.
Yeah, for sure. Because, that's how the world's set up. It's a vanity-based world based off material. It's an illusion to me, but, that's how you have to survive. So it's not that much of an illusion. You know what I mean? But, that's the way of this world.
Absolutely.
So bringing a child into this world without the proper finances would be a bad move. But if I would have had that kid, I would have been mentally and spiritually and physically ready for it. Financially, I wouldn't, and that's one of the 4 corners of the square that I would need for that kid to be, thriving in this particular civilization. But I feel like me.
You said the 4 corners.
Yeah.
What are they?
Mentally, spiritually, physically, and financially.
Okay.
And then there's a dot in the middle, and that's in the heart. Genuinely in the heart. It was one of those things that, as an artist, I always paid attention to like ancient Renaissance art and stuff like that. And there's always this picture of, the fake Jesus with the sacred heart going like this. And I never understood it until I delve deep into like heart intelligence and the research of the heart and how the heart is really the most important organ, and its magnetic field is extremely, it's intense. The heart is intense, and that's why the Bible says change your heart. That's why God really emphasizes changing your heart. I appreciate that a great deal. I appreciate that a great deal, and I want to have that all the way. I'm 22 years old. I still make mistakes. I'm not a perfect human. I want my heart to be so pure, so everything, that when I have a child, like my child can feel my heart without me even being around. I could be traveling somewhere and my child feels my heartbeat, my pulse. It knows he's protected in his father's love and then his heavenly father's love as well. You know what I mean? It's just.
As far as fatherhood, man, like I was telling you earlier, everybody's journey is different.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's different based on, the culture. It's different based on, how you came up, how your dad came up, your mom came up, the way they were raised. You know what I'm saying? So those are the testimonies that they have. That's their experiences. They're gonna do what they saw. They're gonna do what they remember. Because one thing about it, just like you remember some things about your dad, right?
Yeah.
And so you're gonna always remember that. So the best thing you could do as a father is grow that remembrance. You know what I'm saying? Enrich that remembrance with some things that's going to bring him up the right way, because everybody's a little different. And you probably don't know everything, even about your dad.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
But yeah, so yeah, so it's definitely different. Are you going to be 100% ready? No, but that's what this podcast is about. This podcast is about sharing those testimonies and those journeys, because we learn from other people's testimony. That's the way we really learn. So hopefully when you go back and see some other interviews on how previous fathers approach situations, because they are approaching the same situation, they just handle it a little different.
Yeah, and I personally believe every child is different. Every child is different. Like the way my father would handle me would be different from how you would handle your child, because I'm different from your child. Your child is different
Right.
from me in our own unique ways.
Right.
And like there's certain things like you may be able to strong arm your kid. You know what I mean? And like get them right. Me, I prefer somebody talking to me and having an intellectual conversation.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that's your kid. I'm saying like anybody. Like there's different methods for every soul. For what hits it.
Yeah, and we were all created different. So one thing about it, and this is what, the guidance, this is what I think helped me, right? Is there's really only one father. You know what I mean? There's one father, and the way that you approach a situation may be different based on where you feel his hand is leading you.
Yeah.
Anytime you face with a difficult situation, the answer really is already there. And you talk about the heart. That heart is really gonna guide you. And that's just the way. And everybody got to tap into that.
Yeah.
And it takes some people a little longer to tap into it, but like I got my boys, right? Neither one of them are the same.
Yeah.
So, like I was telling someone once before, the way I raised him, I might take a different approach with my other son.
And that's beautiful that you can identify that. A lot of men don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
They feel like I gotta raise this child the same way I raised this child because this is how I raised my kid.
And that's the way they were raised.
Yeah.
But you have to be in tune, like you're saying, spiritually, and even with your father, right? From what I heard, from what I hear from you, he didn't make a change to be a better father until he made a change spiritually.
Yeah, and you know what? I will say he made several changes, but he made several worldly changes. You know what I'm saying? Like he was like, okay, maybe if I don't beat him, but if I talk to him crazy, this will work. You know what I mean? And it didn't necessarily work until he learned how to edify me, edify my spirit. Now my father, he starts conversations with like, I believe in you, son. You can do this, this, and this, and that, this, and this, and that. But where you're going wrong is boom, 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 boom. You know what I'm saying? Back in the day, he'd just be like, yada, 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 yada. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't touching my soul because it wasn't even getting past my ears. Because if somebody talks to me crazy, I shut it out.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And he should know that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's a learned behavior, right?
Yeah.
That's a learned characteristics of a father that you really just identified and elaborated on, because you have to, okay, how I'm going to say this? It's going to be a big pause, but I want to. Hey, look, man, before you get out of here, I did want to you to give me a bird's eye view about your book. Now, you do a lot of writing. You do a lot of writing, and you do film. I think that's remarkable, man. And I started reading it. I did not complete it. I started reading it, and what excited me more is really how you put it together. I mean, you putting those characters together, and just the ability to do it and move from one plot to the next was like, it was remarkable to me. What's the name of your book that you? Well, is it a book or is it a film?
It's a film. It's a film.
It's a script. Okay.
It's a film. But I like the fact that you say book because I wrote it like a book.
Yeah.
So, the fact that you're saying book is like it's giving me like I did what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
It's called Box Purple Lions. It's a very deep cinematic. It's an artistry cinematic piece. It's written in poetry. It's very deep. It's allegorical. It's one of those films that like once you watch it, you're gonna have to like study it. It's just deep. It's deep like that. You probably won't get it the first time unless you are extremely educated on your history and you are in tune with your spirit the way you need to be.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I wrote it, it's crazy that I put my name. It's by Noah Ryan Moses Jackson because I definitely wrote it with God.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, is God gonna get his credit for allowing me to be used as an instrument to tell this truth? I don't know. I hope he does.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely allow myself to be used writing this particular piece, and I cannot wait for viewers to see it get made. And it's actually in pre-production right now. We're trying to figure things out right now. So
that's great, man, and you can't go wrong with that. I mean, you put God first. Your direction is going to be right, even in fatherhood. You was talking about that, and that's what you need to be an effective father, if you ask me, because you're able to see the path that's not laid. Fatherhood. A lot of times you walk uncharted territories, right? You walk on those grounds that it's very, very new to you. But what our Father does is show us the way. Mm-hmm. And the way you see it is, you like you were saying earlier, you got to stay in tune spiritually. So like one of those corners. You know what I mean? You got to stay in tune spiritually. So when you become a father, you cannot be effective, if you wasn't in tune spiritually to know which direction to go. He may tell you to go this way, and you go that for about 5 or 6 months. And by you staying in tune, it's time now that you make a right opposed to a left.
Yeah, and I think it's one of the things with my father was I wish he would have stayed patient enough, and I know, listening to this, it's like, my dad didn't do what he was supposed to do, but he tried to, and when you try to do right, the enemy comes in and does this course
in everything.
Yeah, and I wanted my father to be able to see that, peep that, but stay on the course. Mm-hmm. The enemy derailed my father. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He wasn't patient enough with the course because he felt like the course wasn't taking him anywhere. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Oh, this is happening to me. This is happening to me. I'm going to court cases. I'm fighting for my kids. I'm doing this. I'm traveling here, and it's not working. I'm just gonna give up. Mm-hmm. He gave up, and that's what got me and him. And then he gave up, and then that giving up spirit translated to this, and I'm gonna handle it this way because this is the quick way to do it. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna hit him. I'm gonna hit him this way. I'm gonna hit him that way. Mm-hmm. You're not supposed to give up. You're supposed to stay the course.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And if he would have kept that course, the spirit that was within him would have kept him where he needed to be. Mm-hmm. A lot
to be successful.
I see this a lot of my friends. Their fathers, they see the right course, but they give up on the right course. They give up on it because the course is hard. Mm-hmm. We can't give up on the course. Mm-hmm. Once you give on the course,
that's another attribute of fatherhood: patience.
Yeah.
Yep. Got to be patient.
Yeah.
And that's why I think a lot of fathers should be coaches if they can, because it's going to teach you patience.
Were
patience.
you a coach?
Yes. Yeah.
For
Football and track. Yep. Patience is going to teach you. Coaching is going to teach you patience because, for one, you're dealing with a lot of different kids, so you got to be patient with each kid, each different personality and things of that nature, man. But it's a lot here, man. I really appreciate you coming through, man, and I hope that you come through a lot more.
Yeah, thank you for
You
the
know what I
invite.
mean?
This means a lot.
Yeah, I hope you come through a lot more because I think a lot of seeds are gonna learn from you, and that's part of the family. You know what I mean? So, thanks for coming out, brother.
Thank you.
All right. Listen, this was an awesome episode because we got an opportunity. We're introducing a few other segments, and this is the first segment from a C's perspective. And even in talking with him, I learned a lot. He confirmed a lot, and based on previous interviews. So, for one, if you like what you heard, do one thing. You got to subscribe. You got to like it. And if you feel in your spirit that this episode is helping somebody else or will help somebody else, share it. Share it to them, send it to them, and get their perspective on it. If you want some more information, then comment on it. Comment on the video. Reach out. We'll definitely reach back out to you, and let's get it. Let's get it.
I have something to say.
Sure.
One
What you
last
got?
thing. I've said a lot of great things about my father. But me and my father went through hell and back. And a word that I just want to leave on this show is forgiveness. When I was able to forgive my father and understand my father, forgiveness and understanding. When I was able to forgive my father and understand my father, he was a lost soul at one point. And I was able to forgive him. A lot of weight, a lot of stressors that held me down and keeping me from propelling forward was relinquished from my body. It left me. I was able to open my mind in ways after forgiving my father for everything that he's done. We've been through hell and back. I know I've tried my hardest to keep it clean when I speak about my father. Me and my father have been through hell and back, and I'm still able to forgive him. And I hope that one day everybody that's watching this will be able to forgive their father for the mistakes that their father's made, because I'm sure your father's repented. I'm sure your father feels bad for what he's done, and eventually, that'll help your relationship. It'll definitely heal it, because it's what healed me and my father's relationship, me forgiving him.
That's perfect, man.
Yeah,
that's perfect, and you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I mean, we all go through things, and man, I believe if I had your father on the show right now, he would definitely vouch for everything that you're saying right now. So much love, my brother. I appreciate you, man.
Thank you so
all right.
much.